Hello and welcome to Soul Symbols. My name is Shelley. I'm a writer, an astrologer, and a card reader, and I'd like to welcome you to my channel. Happy Tuesday. It is How to Tarot Tuesday, and what that is it is a weekly video series that I host. Every week we talk about the symbols in one of the 78 cards from the tarot. And what we do is at the beginning of the video, we will go through the card and discuss the meanings of the card. After we've discussed the symbols, I will go ahead and you, the viewer, would choose from one of three tarot decks. The decks that I choose, the first deck is always the Rider-Waite-Smith, and then the other two decks, what I do is I go ahead and choose the card that I think best represents the card in question, the one that we're talking about. And then you, the watcher, would go ahead and choose your deck. And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and pull cards to see how that card manifests in your life. This is a universal type of reading where you can come across this at any time. If you ever want to skip straight to the reading part of the video, the timestamps are always listed in the description box below, as are the name and authors of the decks that I use. So we'll go ahead and get started. Today we are talking about the Seven of Wands. And the Seven of Wands is a card that, I learned a lot more. I've become a lot more comfortable with the Seven of Wands as I have used the tarot more and more. What you see is in the image, you see a man, not a king, not a page, but someone who's kind of in between. It's like a young man, and he's standing on a ledge. And he has a staff, he has a wand, and he is holding it at an angle as if it were a shield or a blocking maneuver. Below him, you see 6 different wands that seem to be coming up at him. You don't really see the hands that hold the wand, but you do see that at the warrior's feet, he's standing on what looks like a cliff. So definitely it looks like a young person. It looks like someone who is in some kind of battle or some kind of defense. And it looks like the odds are a little bit stacked against him. And it does look like he has the higher ground, right? He's on a ledge. He's got a little bit of an advantage over all that is coming at him. So, to begin, the Seven of Wands, it definitely means a defensive stance. It means aggression. It means, just like with the other wands that we've explored so far, there's a lot of energy and passion behind the action. And what it is that when you look at it, it's like when you think of the wands in kind of a more active stance, the aggression isn't so much of, being on the offense as much as it is about being on the defense. And in that sense, what it usually means is that it means going after what you want, but more importantly, it also means defending what is important to you. So again, you see this person, one person going up, one rod going up against 6. And, the fact that the person has the higher ground kind of makes it look like they might have initiated it. So, when you look at the image, it's possible that the person, ran up onto the top of the hill and then cried out to the rest saying, "Come get me," or, "Arg." Maybe he ran up to the top of the hill to jump into the fray. So in that circumstance, it really does mean that, it's kind of an energy of things coming to a head. It's kind of the spark of some kind of revolution, right? And again, it does feel a little bit outnumbered, 7 being an odd number and 6 against 1. A lot of times it does indicate fighting. The Five of Wands, as we explained before, kind of means conflict. But again, in this stance, it just means that this person, or you in your situation, that you kind of have to make your point forcefully. Like you have to defend your ground, right? Like you're kind of, just like with the Six of Wands, we talked about how you were coming back from victory, right? And in that sense, if you think about the 6 going into the 7, say like with the Six of Wands, we saw how the person was coming back in a parade, right? And I'm a big fan of like things like the lunar landing, and and back in the 60s, and back at the time when you had major world events, the way that you would celebrate, or the way that you would get acclaim, is you would have a parade. There would be a motorcade down Main Street, right? So like the astronauts, they came back from space, and then they went on a tour of the United States. They went around, and presidents, they used to go around and wave in parades. Now here, that was the Six of Wands, and then when you think about the Seven, it's almost like, oh, okay, in the Six, I was the hero. I had all the victory. Then, here it's almost like you're defending that title, right? So maybe you can think of it that way, with the Six, almost like being a boxing champion or a wrestling champion, or in that sense, you're defending your title, right? you were a victor before, and now everybody's trying to replace you. That's possible. Now, the other thing that I think of in that same vein is that, sometimes when you're new at something, so in kind of a work context, maybe when you were in your Six of Wands energy, you really discovered something new, right? You were the king of the hill, and then everybody else saw that victory and then started to emulate or copy you, right? So in that sense, again, in a work context, maybe you had some kind of idea that really put you out on top, and now that idea is, everybody else is trying to take your spotlight. So in that sense, in a business sense, you can think of it as kind of being, standing your ground and not letting anybody take your hill. The other thing that I see is that it can be a lot about, it can have a meaning of holding out against pressure. Maybe there's some kind of vote that everybody is on board with, but you have legitimate reasons why you can't, maybe you're a juror, if you're on jury duty, and everybody is thinking one verdict, but you really have legitimate reasons to vote against it. It can speak a lot about politics, in the way that, again, you're holding out for what you believe in. You're not backing down. So that's definitely a Seven of Wands concept, and the other thing is, again, you're posing not just one person. This isn't just like the Five of Wands where you might be going up against one person. You're going up against a lot. I also kind of look at this as the kind of David and Goliath card. I definitely feel like sometimes, because again, this person is dressed more like a page. He's not really dressed like a king or a knight. So I really do think that your defense, like, you might not have all the armor, and you might be going up against a lot, right? So you're defending yourself. You're holding your ground. The other thing is that sometimes it can be opposition or just a lot of overwhelming work. Again, with the wands, everything coming at you, it can kind of be like, you just feel like you have to be on guard all the time. It can be a sign of like burnout or being overwhelmed and taking on too much, or having too much going against you. The other thing that it really means is it's refusing to yield. So a lot of times, like if you see the Seven of Wands next to like a sword card, like if you see this next to the King of Swords or the Queen of Swords, that would be someone who's really standing their ground and holding a boundary. Like, you're saying, no, I'm not going to let you take my hill. I'm not going to let you do this. So it really is about maintaining healthy boundaries. The other things is that it can be, again, with the person being on the hill, it can mean having an advantage. It can mean that maybe you do have some kind of, you're in a field with a lot of different, kind of aspects, but your idea or your concept is a little bit ahead. But the only caveat with that is that you do feel just marginally ahead, right? It isn't like the six where you're coming down the street with a parade, a kind of total conquest. This is kind of like a card that means that you have to continue to work and struggle to keep that leverage, right? If you in that sense, it really means about, you have to keep going, you have to continue to fight, right? You're not out of the woods yet, I guess is what you would say. Now, this really, on that note, it really does play into the next card. The second deck that I chose is the Slow Tarot by Lacey, Bryant. And I really do love her depiction of this card because it's very different. Here you see a young man, and again, it's kind of similar to the young man here. Again, it's someone, in this card I kind of see like a teens or early 20s kind of person, and here you definitely see someone who's more like 14 or 15. But what it really means is that, the way that she has them depicted is she has all these kind of yellow reds in the background, which is very fire energy, right? It's energetic, it's energy, but it's almost kind of a sickly yellow, right? It's almost kind of like the storm of war kind of coloring. And what you see is you see a rope ladder, and you see these, the wands, and you can see the look on his face. He's just like we said, you're keeping ahead, right? If you do not keep going, if you do not keep moving, then you could lose. You could lose at any minute. You have to keep going, And that's the energy that you feel from this card. And that's why I picked it for this, because I knew long ahead and you've seen me, this card has come up in other, regular readings on my channel. And every single time I read it, I'm like, gosh, when I had a tarot, this one is gonna be one of the cards. But I'm sorry. But what I love about it is that it's almost like an obstacle course, right? You've seen those rope ladders. They twist, they turn, they're not steady. At any minute, one of those twigs could break, right? It's almost like with every step, he's testing his weight to make sure something doesn't break. And then he's carefully but swiftly trying to, almost like one of those, Great American Ninja games, where it's like an obstacle course. He has to move along swiftly, but at any time that ladder can swing. It can throw him off. One of the twigs could break, and he could lose his leverage, right? So he's staying on top, but he's using all of his agility to do that. The other thing is it's like a balance. It's like a balance of weight, right? It's taking a lot of strength. The other thing is that what always really hits me about this card is that the youth and the Rider-Waite-Smith being like 100 years old, you get a sense of power from the Rider-Waite-Smith, but you don't, what hits me about the youth in this card is that it really does feel like a struggle for someone who really should have shelter at this age, right? So again, I think David and Goliath, I think someone who has no defenses, but who is fighting I think of someone who has no defenses, but who is fighting an adult fight. Right? So in that sense, and again, this being, the Slow Tarot is definitely more of a modern interpretation. It can be someone who has a really kind of tough childhood. It can be someone who's young, but is growing up fast because they have to, and this is a kind of a new interpretation for the Seven of Wands that I've recently learned, is that because when you think about it, when you're faced, you're a younger person. When you're a younger person, but you're faced with the challenges of an adult real world, don't you feel like you're in an obstacle course? Doesn't it seem a little unfair? Like, why does this person have to be, the other thing is that it makes you feel like you have to be on guard every second, like there's no rest. So that is another interpretation of this card. It's kind of like no rest for the weary. You have to keep going. You have to keep striving. You have to balance it every minute, because at any minute that twig could break. At any minute that rod can, the ladder could swing and throw you off. So it is. It's like constant vigilance is kind of the feeling that you get from it. It also means strength in adversity and courage, which all wands mean, right? The wands mean having the confidence and the steadfastness, because when you think about it, this is a lot of opposition. Wouldn't that intimidate you? And in a way, it can mean intimidation, but the other big meaning is rising to the occasion. It's saying, no, you shall not pass. You're not going to just run over me. You might steamroll me, but I'm going to stand for what I believe. So that in that way, it really does, it can mean resisting authority. In that sense, and in a minute when we get to the reversal, we can talk about it, but I really do get the sense, like if you also see this next to a card like the Hierophant, it could be resisting the status quo. If you feel like, if you feel like what the opposition that's coming against you is wrong, but yet, you might not win. You're just one ledge away from being overtaken. You have the advantage, but you're going to have to keep on top of it. It's very brave, but it is about, being resolute and being firm. Now, the other thing is that it's about, and this plays into our third card, is that it talks about standing up for what you believe in. It's being sure, right? Because when you think about it, it's like, okay, are you going to fight a fight that's not worth it? No, you're going to. So the last meaning of the card, and as we go into the third deck, I chose the Jane Austen Tarot, and it's a little bit more of a romantic deck. But in this image, you see Elizabeth Bennet, who is a poor kind of commoner girl. She's one of 5 daughters, and she is in her garden. And what this is that this is the aunt of Mr. Darcy, Lady Catherine de Bourgh. And what she's doing in this image is Elizabeth Bennet is telling Lady Catherine to get out of her garden. And what that is that's a very famous scene in the book of Pride and Prejudice. And what it is that in the story, Lady Catherine de Bourgh storms into Elizabeth Bennet's house, and she's not adhering to any polite rules of society. She's really flaunting her authority and thinking that she can just barge into someone's house and demand, to have someone answer her. And what she's asking Elizabeth in this scene is she's saying, I've heard rumors that you're to be engaged to my nephew. Is it true? Is it true? And Elizabeth Bennet, who is of a very free mind, she's conducting, her response is polite, but irritated. Like, just because I'm poor and just because you're a lady of the manor does not mean that you can burst into my house, and call me out in front of my family and demand answers from me about my private life. And so the dialogue is very stern, but the premise of the scene is that Elizabeth Bennet, even though she has everything to lose, she's not wealthy, and she's talking back to someone who could make her life quite miserable. But she refuses to be, belittled or condescended, spoken to in a condescending way. She almost acts like the lady that she later becomes, money or no money. She tells Lady Catherine that she doesn't have a right to know, and she politely says, you need to leave my house, you need to go. And that's, again, it's standing up. It's saying, look, I have nothing to lose. It's David and Goliath. You could totally, with your money, with your, Lady Catherine just going around and verbally, talking about Elizabeth Bennet could make her life miserable, make her life unbearable. So it is kind of taking that stand, and it's a scary situation, because you think, okay, again, young person, no armor, going up against this very, very strong opposing force that could really take them out, right? So in the situation, or when it manifests as a situation or a person, it basically means that conflict is definitely coming at a head. Most of the time you know what the conflict is by the time the card manifests in your reading. Either that, or you have an idea, you kind of see the storm coming, you know that it's coming. Now, the Seven of Wands can definitely be seen in a romantic context as well, because, it can mean a storm is coming in a kind of a bad way. It can mean that fallout is on its way. And it just means that you're going to need to call on your reserves of strength, and you're going to need to step up. You're really going to have to rise to the occasion. Again, if you see this, it can be in a work situation. It could be competition that you have to kind of fight to keep ahead. Sometimes it can be, again, like an obstacle course where you're learning fast. You could feel like you're the young person or the person at the disadvantage. But it definitely means that, that you're not ready to give up the fight. You're fighting. The other thing is, every single one of these cards, you're fighting the good fight, right? You're fighting the fight that needs to be fought. And it just basically means that you have to be on your toes. All three situations is definitely about keeping on your toes, keeping very spry. You're going to have to leap. It can, if you see this card next to something like the Nine of Swords, it could mean that it's causing a lot of anxiety. You always having to be on your guard. Either that, or if you see it next to the Nine of Wands, which is like feeling worn out, like the battle is never going to end. But it definitely heralds that hard work will pay off, that, if you see this right before the sun, sometimes it means that you're almost out of the woods. Just keep on fighting. The universe knows you're tired. We know it just means you're doing the right thing. Now, when it manifests as a person, and again, the other thing that I like about the two middle cards is it also means try to tackle something one at a time as much as you can, but you have a lot coming at you, and it's going to be one after the other, right? It's almost like this guy would have to knock out one wand at a time. But when it manifests as a person, it definitely means that somebody has the high ground. It could mean that when you see it, you could be looking up at someone. You might not even be in the fray. Maybe you're asking about someone who's in the middle of a struggle, and so it would, that would be the card's way of saying, yes, this person is on top for right now. The other thing is that it really does mean that it's people who are making things happen, right? Sometimes that can definitely be in a business context where, somebody may be coming out with a new idea, and it might be coming out with an idea that's not as popular. Again, this definitely takes on a real political vibe sometimes. Maybe someone's coming out with an alternative to fossil fuels, and then, but you're gonna have to fight those in power who want to keep the status quo going. But yeah, it's a card of strength and endurance, and about really, standing your ground. Now, when you look at the Seven of Wands in reverse, you can definitely immediately get a sense that it's the person that is not on top, right? It can be the person who is feeling really daunted, someone who feels like they're about to be overrun. Maybe the person feels like they're losing the battle or losing the high ground. This is definitely the person who feels like they're about to lose, or that, whatever leverage they have is slipping from their grasp. It can definitely mean a retreat, or finally being overrun by the opposition. Sometimes it can mean uncertainty. Like sometimes it can mean that you perceive that the opposition's going to be stronger than you, and that you really should, you know, that it might be a futile battle. The other thing is it can definitely be running the other way. Sometimes when I see the 7 in reverse, there's a great scene in The Princess Bride where, you know, they're about to duel and he goes on guard and the guy just looks and then he stops and then he very comically runs the other way. Sometimes I think of that when I think of the 7 in reverse, because it can really be like taking one look at the competition and being like, nope, 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 nope. It's kind of like the nope, 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 nope. And just, you know, there's a cute little octopus meme about that just shows him swimming away, you know. So in that same vein, it can be a fear of the future. It can be a sign of something that's like a failing business, or, you know, the other thing is that it can be like, for the instance, in a social context, it can mean that the other person did win, or you know, maybe the other person really did, you know, in that situation, the giant did win. But you know, the other thing is that sometimes it can just be that the perception of something. So again, you know, thinking that, you know, that it's so, thinking that the opposition is stronger than you. And in that sense, the 7 of Wands can definitely be something's bark being worse than its bite. So again, if you see the reversed next to something like the 9 of Swords, it could just be your anxieties getting the better of you. The other thing is, if you do see the 7 of Swords reversed next to a very positive card like the Sun or the World, then that means that you were really worrying over nothing, right? You thought that it was going to be, you know, this big fight, but it turned out to be just a fizzle instead of being conquered. Now, the other thing that it can definitely mean is that it can mean someone who lets things happen in kind of the bad way. It can be the person that lets people walk all over him, or, you know, again, in a business context, it can be the person that you think, oh gosh, you know, if I leave this person in charge, they're not gonna, you know, they're not gonna stand their ground, right? Anybody's gonna walk up and take advantage of this person. And then the other thing is that also in a business and a personal sense, it can mean that, you know, you could be looking at someone who's holding on to something that they really need to let go, right? You know, and sometimes, and it's sad, it's heartbreaking sometimes, but it can sometimes mean that, you know, maybe it's time to close a business and the person's still struggling to keep it going. And it might mean that, okay, you know, maybe it's time to just let it go and let other things come in. But any way you look at it, it's a very energetic card, and you know I say it with every single card, but it does have a special place in my understanding now that I've seen it and worked with it more, and it's definitely it's a very, very interesting symbolism. All right, well, now we'll go ahead and get to the second part of the read. I'm going to go ahead and freeze frame and let you choose your deck. I do ask that you please choose from your intuition. If you like the artwork, if you like the stone, or if you just feel drawn to the pile or the timestamp. The first deck is going to be the Rider-Waite-Smith with the Sunstone. The second deck is the Slow Tarot by Lacey Bryant with the Bloodstone. And the third deck is the Tarot of Jane Austen with the Pearl. I'll go ahead and freeze frame, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, we're back. If you ever need more time, please feel free to pause the video, but we'll go ahead and we'll move the other cards up. And deck number 1, the Rider-Waite-Smith. Let's see, how does the 7 of Swords manifest in your life? Deck number 1. Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh. And thank you. Oh wow, guys, you have a very clear reading. I like it. I like that a lot. All right, guys. So in the past, in the past, I feel like I get the sense as if, I really get the sense as if you really were, just like we said in the introduction, you know, about how with the Six of Wands as being the winner, it's coming out on top, and then the Seven of Wands just kind of transitions. It's almost like you became the best at something with the Six of Wands, and then when you get around it, by the time you get to the Seven of Wands, it's almost like some time has passed, and now other people want to get in, kind of want to get in on your game, so to speak. I'm getting a strong vibe that, and again, you can be a woman watching this and being in this energy, that in the past, you really were the king of the hill. Like you're coming through as the King of Pentacles, and you have the Ace of Pentacles, right? So I really get the sense that not too long ago, and this could either be a person or, yeah, I am really getting a strong sense that this was kind of you, right? I get the sense that this was you. You were in a really good place. Financially, you probably either created some kind of goods or services, either that or just something about your position or where you were. The other thing about the Pentacles is that it doesn't necessarily have to be worldly money, but it usually is. And in this, I am getting a sense that you were well off financially, and that you probably are still. But it is definitely about being in a position of power. And you were in a very practical position. You were the head, you're the king, right? It's good to be the king. And you're in a position of power where you make important practical decisions. Like you're a leader, right? And you lead other people. And the other thing is that you see that the King of Pentacles, his eyes are on the prize, right? His eyes are on the pinnacle, right? So I do think that you were always looking to grow. You always kept your attention on how to keep growing, right? And the Ace of Pentacles is a wonderful beginning. This is such a steady, strong foundation, right? You are set. You are set. And I do think that so not too long ago, and when you see it, he's the only one in the picture. He's got a castle behind him, and he's got all this growing greenery, and you are looking out on a garden, right? You're looking out on a garden, and you're ready to start. You have the universe handing you this gigantic pentacle, right? So what's happening is, not too long ago and currently, you had a wonderful, great start. You were in a good position, very solid, and I am getting a financial kind of stability from this. So maybe it's a job, maybe it's some kind of endeavor, but you really got to a stable place where you have this bright future ahead of you. It's almost like you're laying cornerstones, and you're ready to continue to grow and continue on that path. Now, what's happening presently, and the other thing that, remember how we said in the description of the Seven, this guy is dressed in a tunic. He's not quite a page. This person's older than a page. He's kind of in between a page and a knight, right? But the page energy, you got in the middle, in the current energy, you got the Page of Wands. So the Page of Wands it's a very excitable energy. It is juvenile in the sense that it's almost like there's no filter on you, right? When you feel it with all of your being. I always say that the Page of Pentacles is like that, getting up on Saturday to go to summer camp kind of feeling. It's like you have this sense that you have really, again, you're excited about this future. You really you want to continue going down this path, but the differences that I'm seeing here is that I'm seeing in the past there was a very anchored kind of energy. There's a king. The king is very slow and steady. This guy is not a fast mover, and he is not frivolous. If he makes decisions about his money, if he makes a decision about where he's going with this pentacle, it's a very thought out decision. It's almost like the business decisions that you see on Wall Street. It's very calculated. It's like, okay, where am I going? What am I doing? There's nothing haphazard about the way that he runs his life. But the Page of Wands is not the same energy. The Page of Wands is it is a little bit of a throw it at the wall and see if it sticks. It's that excitable, well, let's go do this because I feel like doing this, right? And so you're going from this real steady energy that really is promising a steady future. And now I am getting kind of, have you ever heard the expression being busted down to corporal? I'm kind of getting that vibe. I think what might have happened is that you really were on top, like you were this king and you had all this promising, and you still do. I think this is the past, but it's not that far behind where you are now. But what's happening is you see this future. There's no one else, there's no one threatening the king. There's no one telling the king to get off his throne. But now, all of a sudden, you're being made to feel like you're in the Page of Wands energy where it's almost like, again, I am getting kind of the interpretation that maybe you did have that victory. Maybe you were I'm getting a sense like you were the only person. The reason that all of this luxury, the reason that you didn't, all of this luxury was here because you were the one and only heir, is what I'm getting. You were doing the work. Everything was solid because there was no one else in your realm to take over. Now I'm getting a sense that it's not you on your throne anymore. There are other players in the mix now, and they are kind of trying to replace you or try to go against your ideas, so now this future that you envisioned, it is a little bit, you could use the term threatened, but it's subject to change because you're kind of in this energy, this youthful energy of let me try something new, anything new, right? So you went from being the King of Pentacles to a Page. Now, the other thing that I'm kind of getting from this is that I don't think that it might involve some kind of demotion. I don't know. It could be that, maybe you were filling the role of one position and then all of a sudden you were given a different one. But the other thing about the Page is that, the Page, it always goes from Page, Knight, King, Queen, King. So I do think that by whatever this competition is, whatever this is that's taking you down, I do think that you might have been taken down a few pegs, but not in a bad way. I do think this competition is going to help you grow. Maybe again with anytime something comes and because when you think about it, no company has ever stayed on top forever, right? Right? When you think about it, even with technology, it's like there's always going to be a new king of the hill eventually. Technologies come and go. People thought, certain brands of phone were the end all be all, and then you see, new technology, new ways of living come out, and you think, gosh, that old way is just not how it goes anymore. So competition isn't a bad thing. If anything, it kind of, it develops you. I know it's not comfortable, but kind of like a diamond, just like the way that a diamond is coal under pressure and friction, you might be right now you might be put under pressure to come up with new ideas. And that's kind of the vibe that I'm getting, is it's almost like you have been taken from one position because of competition. There's been new players in your world now, and all of a sudden you don't feel like the king anymore. You don't feel like the king of your realm. You feel like, like you've been put in this position, like you don't know as much. This also can be when environments change, Like, for instance, maybe you're really good at one computer system and then all of a sudden your company comes in and completely changes everything, and then that makes you feel like, gosh, well, I'm just starting back as like an intern. You feel like an intern again. But you are going to fight it, right? You are going to fight it. And again, these both being wands. But the vibe I'm getting is that you're almost going to use your creativity. And that's the thing that I like about the Page of Wands, is that he's not afraid, right? That's the common theme between these two cards, is that you're like, okay, so you took away my crown, right? That's the other thing. You took away my crown and you kind of busted me down to corporal. Well, I'm the Page of Wands. I'm full of ideas. You know, my ideas gave me the crown. My new ideas will give me a new crown, right? So I do think I'm getting a strong positive energy. The other thing is that the Page of Wands, he doesn't see fear. He feels unbridled optimism all the time. So I do think that that's what's getting you through this situation. And then when you look to the future, you got a Major Arcana, and wow, guys, you look at how much yellow is in these cards. You got strength. And how beautiful is that, right? You got strength. So yeah, if I had to call it, guys, when you get the Seven of Wands and you get strength, that is definitely, it does. I do think that your ideas are going to carry you through. I do think that you're going to have to stay real fluid. You're going to have to stay, and the Page of Wands is like that too. He's very lithe. He's spry. He's quick on his feet, and he's quick to do what he trusts his instincts. There we go. Ding, ding, ding. He trusts his instincts. And he is a younger energy. He's not a king, but those kind of, the other thing that I love about pages that gets really overlooked is that even though they're a youthful energy, and even though they can be a little bit immature, the beauty about it is that when you think about it, the best ideas that come out in the world, the best impulses, are the ones that aren't scrutinized the way that an adult would scrutinize it, right? Because when you think about it, it's like, okay, you have to let yourself have like a childlike perception in order to have big ideas. You have to dream big, and you have to let yourself dream big. And I think that's what you're going to do, and you're going to be optimistic about it and not have any fear. But I do think that you're gonna hold it together, and it doesn't give a clear answer whether or not you'll be king of the hill again. I could ask if you want me to. Let's go ahead and do it. Will our Page of Wands, will he get his crown back? What will strength bring him? What will strength bring our page? Wow. It is, I'm getting four of swords, King of Swords, and the Three of Wands. So yes, I am seeing another king here. I'm seeing another king here. And what it's going to do is it's going to be a lesson. It is definitely going to teach you something. And don't we all love that? Sarcasm, right? But you do have to pull, after you get done with the fight, you might need to pull and kind of restore your energy. It is going to teach you about the way that whatever competition, it's going to give you a whole new perspective, and it's going to give you a strategy. And you are going to be a leader in this, and you're waiting for your ships to come in. So yes, to answer it, I do think that you're going to become, it's almost like you're going from one type of king to another. It is going to make you more strategic. It's going to make you a lot more in your head. But it is going to be a learning experience, and I do think you have the strength. You have the strength to get through it. All right, guys. Wow, that was a deep one. But I love the Rider-Waite for that reason. It's still, I know it's very traditional images, but it tells you a lot, always. All right, so deck number 2, the Seven of Wands, the Slow Tarot, Seven of Wands. And I really do love that depiction. All right, so deck number 2, how does the Seven of Wands manifest in your life? Ooh. How does the Seven of Wands manifest And future. Oh. Emperor, I'm seeing Emperor and 6 of Swords. Future beliefs. Wow, okay, interesting. Oh, that's great. We were talking in the description, we were talking about the 9 of Wands. But all right, guys, so in your past you got the 4 of Wands, and again, we just How to Tarot not too long ago. We're seeing a lot of wands here. A moment. And so what I'm seeing, guys, is that in the past you really met some kind of milestone in your life. Like, again, you know how we talked about how, you know, before you get to the 7 of Wands, it's almost like you have this, the 6 of Wands is kind of about victory. It's about achieving some kind of, you know, conquest. And the 4 of Wands is very much like that too. It's like, again, it's kind of hitting one of those milestones in life that you can celebrate and be proud of. So in the past, I really do get a sense that I'm getting a strong feeling as if you had a sense of peace. You felt like, okay, the other thing that I'm sensing is, and again with the artwork of the card, I really get the feeling like you were in a good place, meaning that you had done things the same way for a long time, right? You had growth, right? And it's almost like I'm getting almost kind of the feeling as if maybe you've been in the same job or in the same career for a long time, or again, maybe your life was just your life is very regimed, right? You know what to expect. You do your thing, right? There's not much to challenge you, right? At least that's how it's been in the past. In the past, things have been very quiet, very, very productive, and very, you know, you see these gardeners, you know, they've been, you know, you're enjoying your harvest, right? And everything is happy and celebrational, and you know, everything is good. It's all good in the neighborhood, right? And now, presently, again, you know, with the artwork of this being like an obstacle course, this person is on a ladder, and it's a rope ladder, and it's like he has to move swiftly, but he has to be on his toes. He has to test the weight and make sure that each stick will hold his weight, and it's like he's got to keep moving. He's got to keep balance. He's got to keep moving. And again, you know, we're filming this video during a very changing time in our economy and in our world, right? So it could be that in the past, you know, everything was just so normal, everything was expected and what you knew it to be, and now presently it's almost like you have to be on your toes, you have to keep going. It's like testing you, right? It's like an obstacle course, and it's testing you, and it's making you feel unsafe, right? This past was all safe and steady and you know, reliable and normal, and now it's like this weird obstacle course that you have to get through. And you know, and again, this might be the current events going on, you know, with like the coronavirus. But underneath the 7 of Wands, you have the Hierophant, and you have underneath it, you have the Knight of Swords. And the Knight of Swords is in full armor, right? His horse is rearing up. So I definitely get this, I get the strong sense that I do feel like presently what's making you feel the 7 of Wands is that I do think I am getting kind of a work vibe or something from current events, but I feel like you're being tested, and it's like something is testing you. And again, this person being a young person, it's almost like, you know, in the past you knew what to do, right? You knew the drill, and now you have new things being thrown at you. So you feel like a novice, right? You don't 100% know what you're doing, and it's almost like you're being tested, but you're being thrown into this obstacle course to see how you'll handle it, right? And underneath it, the Hierophant definitely means the institution. It means what it can rule governments, it can rule, agencies. It's basically the tradition that everybody is following. It's what the majority of people are doing, right? Or what you are being told to do at a higher level. So when I think about this, when you look at the two, and I know it's a little bit of a difficult, comprehension when you see someone who looks very Pope-like to be, watching someone go through an obstacle course. But underneath it, with it being the Knight of Swords, the Knight of Swords is a knight. He goes on missions, right? And he's very outspoken. The other thing is that you see white lilies, and white lilies mean, they mean maturity, and they mean knowledge, right? And again, with this very dark terrain, he's coming through with his sword of truth, right? So I do get a sense that in the past everything was normal, everything was tried and true. There was a regime, there was a regular routine to the way things are done. Now all of a sudden you're being thrown on the ladder and being told to I think you're being thrown into a situation that's foreign to you, and you're making the best of it, and you're using your skills, you're using your knowledge to get through it, right, as fast as possible. But it's keeping you on your toes, and there's a sense of urgency, and again, I always get moved by the sickly color of the clouds. It's red and it's yellow, but they're like storm clouds, right? It's like war, right? And you have this young boy who's barefoot trying to climb up the ladder as fast as he can. I do think that this might be related to the current events where it seems like you're being told to do things in a new way. It's almost like very quickly you have to figure out a new protocol to something, and you're doing your best, but it is daunting and it's exhausting and it's making you anxious. You have to be on your toes, you have to adapt, and you have to fight. But the other thing that I'm getting is that you're seeing what, you're doing what you have to do, but you're looking at what, you're looking at the institution that's directing you, and it's almost like you're a little bit angry. You're verbally angry. You're like, why are we doing it this way? I'll do it, because it's almost like emergency response that's being bungled, right? I really do get the feeling like I think you're in the thick of it. I think I'm getting a sense like you're an essential worker. And what it is you have to do a really tough job, and you have to adapt to new circumstances, and you're getting sent rules or instructions from maybe it's from a corporation, maybe it's from the government, this could be government, and you'll do it, you'll do your job, and you'll bring your experience to this, and you're staying ahead. You're actually staying very balanced, which is crazy, because at any time those rungs could break, the ladder can throw you off, right? So you're exuding all of your energy to do what you got to do, but you're pretty hot and mad about it. You have things that you want to say, like I think you really want to say this is not being managed right. But all you're getting is that straight-faced, like, well, this is how we're doing it. But you're kind of like, why are we doing it this way? It's causing too much work, or it's not, what's the word I'm looking? It's not efficient is the thing I'm hearing. It's not efficient. It could be wasting your energy. The other thing that I get is with it being a wooden ladder, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, is that like a wooden ladder? It's not even, this isn't like a playground or anything high tech. So yeah, I do think that you have opinions about that. Sometimes that can make you come off as a little bit combative. That's the thing about the 7. It's you're standing your ground, right? And remember we talked about standing your ground and not backing down. You know, you're doing what you got to do, but you're not afraid to say, this is stupid the way that we're doing it. You know, if we keep going this way, this is just going to be a mess, right? You know, we need to get a better handle on this. We need to do this a different way. And again, the Knight of Swords is a very smart person. All of the sword suits are smart people. And he's not a page. He's not a king or a queen, so he's not going to be very delicate in his speech. He'll say this is stupid, right? the Knight of Swords will come in and be like, what in the are we doing here? You know, this is ridiculous, you know, A, B, C, D, E. But I am seeing a little bit of a brick wall there too, you know, so I do see a stalemate because the institution is the institution and the knight is not a king. And, you know, but you're going to do what you got to do, but it's definitely, it's high pressure and anxiety, and you're going to hold your ground. You're going to hold your ground. Now, where that's going to lead you, where that's going to take you, is actually pretty positive. In the future, we got the Nine of Wands, and I really do love this version of the Nine. And you see a woman who looks like she has been through the war, right? She's got bandages and she's looking behind her like, okay, what else do I have to? So here, you know, we're no longer on top of the hill. The danger is no longer immediate, right? The really, you know, scary red clouds have parted, and you do see a blue sky, and you do see green pastures in the background now. But the ground is still pretty barren, right? It's seen activity, and the trees are sprouting, but she has a rod in her hand. Like, I'm worn out. I don't have much energy left to give, but you know, I'm not going to give up now, right? It's kind of like, again, it's a coming through the war and being like, oh gosh, you know, I do see that in the future, you're going to be looking back at the situation. You're still going to think that the situation was stupid and unnecessary. Like, you're going to still think that it wasn't handled right. But you are going to get through it victorious. You're going to be pretty bruised when you're done, you know, but you're going to stave off. You're going to fight the good fight. You're going to definitely fight the good fight, and you're going to get off that ladder eventually, but you're going to be really worn. Now, the thing that I see here is you got the Ace of Coins. The Ace of Coins. And you know what this tells me, guys, is that yes, the coins mean material things. It means money. But the other thing that coins mean is it means things that you value. It means what you value. And I think that, and again, I do think this has to do with current events, is that I think you're going to come out of this really battered and bruised, but with a whole new, like, this is like a seed, right? It's like planting the seed. You're going to be planting the seed of a whole new perception of what is to be valued and what is not to be valued. And I think that really has a lot to do with scruples, like your personal beliefs. Like, when you come out the other side, it's going to be like, you're going to have new perceptions on health. You're going to have a new perception on money. You're going to have a new perception on your career, how you make money, how you live, right? The valuable things in life, the things that are of value to you. It's going to give you a whole new perception. And in the future, you're going to be planting the seed of a whole new way of being, right? And it's going to be a very positive change, but it is kind of sad because the 9 precedes the 10, and then the 10 goes into the Ace, right? So you've got miles to go, but having fought this battle, I do think that you're going to be victorious. You're not going to like it. You're still going to think it's stupid a lot of times, but when you come out, you're gonna fight it to the very end. And when you get to the end, it's going to teach you, it's going to give you a whole new perception about what is right and what's wrong, and about how you want to live your life moving forward. And I think that's going to be a very, very valuable, it's going to be, if everybody does this after this experience, we're going to have a whole new world, you know? We're going to have a whole new world. But all right, guys, I hope I didn't get too deep with that. That was really, you know, it's amazing how, when you start to read into it. All right, so guys, deck number 3. Oh, Jane Austen. I love this deck. So let's go ahead and see, and your pearl. So let's go ahead and see 7 of Candlesticks. How does the 7 of Candlesticks manifest in your life? Ooh. Thank you. Wow, these are just popping out. Thank you. Okay, may I get a little? Thank you. 3. Okay, very, very clear. Wow, that is amazing. All right, guys. So in the past, you guys got the 10 of Cups. I'm sorry, 10 of Coins. You got the 10 of Coins. And the 10 of Coins is that very stable home card, right? You have a firm foundation. You have the family. You have stability. You have the roof over your head, right? Everything is very secure in your life. The other thing with the 10 of Coins is that it's a really strong foundation. It's a very strong foundation. It's like it's an established structure, and it really pertains to family and home. And in a sense, it can mean a little bit of work, but a lot of times it's really kind of also talks about being the head of your household, right? It's kind of like having, again, yeah, it's just very, it's having a steady foundation. Everything is solid. Everything's very grounded, right? Now, in the present, and again, 7 of Candlesticks, it's someone coming in, and in this story, in the 10 of Coins in the cards, this is talking about, I believe it is Fanny Price and Edward Bertram, so it's Mansfield Park. But it's the 7 of Candlesticks means being faced with something that is trying to tell you what to do, right? And you not having the clout, or not, you keeping it classy, but standing up for how you will be treated and how you will not be treated. And underneath it, so in the past, you have a very stable kind of home life. Again, I really get the sense that everything is very solid in your life. You have a good home life. You have a good job. You have, you make the payments with things. Everything is really, really good and secure. Now, I think what it's saying is that something, the 7 of Candlesticks is something or someone coming along and trying to demand that you do something or be something other than that doesn't live up to your standards, right? Something that's telling you that, you need to do something a different way, or you need to do this in order to maintain, your life. I hope this makes sense. I'm sorry, let's go ahead and get into the middle, the current. Now, the current energy that you got is you got the 3 of Coins and you got the Maiden of Quills, right? And oh my gosh, guys, you know what's cool about this is that both of these cards are the scene in Emma where she's painting her friend Miss Smith's portrait. Whoa, what a coincidence, right? That's kind of playing into the interpretation. Sorry guys, I'm just taking a minute to get a beat on this. But yeah, I am almost getting a sense like, and the other thing about this story too with Emma is that she came from a wealthy background. Like she never had to work. Like she was always taken care of. It wasn't like she had to go out into the world and do anything. So you know what that is? I am kind of getting the vibe of that. I'm getting the sense that you have a very stable home life, and what's happening is there's something that's occurring presently that's pushing on you to change your circumstances, right? Like the 3 of Coins. The 3 of Coins is cooperation. 3 of Coins is working with other people. And the Maiden of Quills is the Page of Swords. It's someone who's very light in the, it's almost like you're the messenger between people, right? There's, the Page of, the Maiden of Quills is not, there's not much expected of this person, right? It's almost like you're kind of the verbal glue, you're the communicator amongst people, either in your family or at your job, but you really don't have to. I'm getting kind of a sense like there hasn't been a real obligation on you to have to work too hard to contribute to this, to your living situation, right? Maybe you have a spouse that takes care of more of the bills, or maybe, you live at home where you don't have to pay rent or something like that. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And, these are just living scenarios because, you have a very stable home life. Everything's taken care of. You have a roof over your head. You have nothing to worry about. Everything's very stable and healthy and happy. But here, what I'm seeing here is that you could very well be an artist, but basically your knowledge, or the other thing that I'm getting here is that this could be the way that you're kind of fighting, or the way that you're standing up for yourself, is that there could be someone who's coming up to you and saying, you need to do this a certain way, or you need to do something a different way. Let me try to explain it in different words. I'm sorry. I know this is probably not making too much sense. What I'm thinking is that, I'm getting the sense that maybe you feel like you're being made to feel like your contribution or what you do is not real work. Is the vibe that I'm getting, right? And I don't mean that in an insulting way. That's what I'm just saying. I think the source of this conflict is that, the three of Pentacles is you are a good. What I'm saying is you're very good at cooperation with people. It's almost like you're really. You ever have that friend or that coworker who they always keep things peaceful between people. Right? They keep things peaceful between people. The other thing that I can kind of sense here that I might be getting a beat on is that it's possible that maybe in your work environment, everything has been fine, like everyone gets along real well. I do get the sense that you're a little bit of the social butterfly in your group, like you're definitely the person who keeps the communication going between other people. Like, again, you're kind of the verbal glue. You keep everybody in contact with one another. I do get the sense that you're very friendly and that everybody likes you, and that in that sense you bring a great contribution to your relationships and to the way that you work is not traditional. Like I don't think that you make as much money as other jobs would, but you do work hard, and your job brings you fulfillment. You might be an artist or something like that. And I do also think that your contribution to your work is how you bring people together, and you keep people working as a team. And I do think that maybe, this could be like just a spat with a coworker. I just get this feeling like somebody is kind of criticizing you or trying to make it out like you don't work hard enough, or that what you do is not. They're questioning you and kind of criticizing you. And what you've done is you said, look, I don't need to take that. I know what I do. It might not be as big as, I'm not a CEO, I don't make millions of dollars, but what I do, I really put my heart into, and, all of my coworkers appreciate me, and I appreciate my coworkers, and, I do also get a lot of kind of verbal with this. I get the sense that it's a little bit of a, The other thing that is important about this scene is that there were different intentions. Like, for instance, Mr. Elton was pretending to be interested in Miss Smith, but really he was trying to get Emma's attention. So I think what might be happening also is that this might be a little bit of a, you know how things happen at work sometimes, that, you know, there might be a little bit of, you know, talking going on that's making you out like you're being a social butterfly when you're really not. That's just your energy is that you're a good communicator and you're an artistic person, and I just really get a sense like you bring a good sense of camaraderie to what you do. And you might be, you know, someone might be criticizing you, and you're kind of standing up to that person going, look, okay, I know that I don't make millions of dollars, I'm not the head of my household, but I bring a creative slant to what I do, I enjoy what I do, and my coworkers and I are happy, and we communicate well. So I'm not gonna take that crap, you know, you can't yell at me or call me out or say these things to me because you don't know what you're talking about, right? You know, get out of my garden. You know, get off my azaleas. But so, you know, that's kind of the present. And the other thing is I'm getting a very light energy in the present too. It's almost like it was almost like you're not trying to be disrespectful. The other thing that I can get that I just want to throw out there is that you could be in something that is a little bit of a service field. You know, maybe you serve people again. You don't feel like you're real high up on the food chain, so to speak. And you might have had a situation where somebody complained or said something about you, but really you were trying to do your best. You were not trying to incite any confusion or any disrespect, but all of a sudden you're getting called out for something, and it could be very detrimental. And you're just defending yourself. You're saying, look, okay, maybe I said the wrong thing. I'm sorry if it came out the wrong way, but I'm not going to take that. That's not what happened. Okay? But sorry for the long-winded response. But now moving forward. Now, the future, and I don't want you to be afraid, there's no bad cards in tarot, and that's why I pulled clarifiers, because the moment I read the card, I wanted to say what it is that's going on, is you got the card of death. And again, death is not a bad card. It just basically means transformation. It means things are going to change, right? It means things are going to change. And this is the scene from Sense and Sensibility. And this is where Mr. Dashwood is on his deathbed, and his wife and his two daughters, Eleanor and Mary Ann, are watching as he's making a promise. He's speaking to his son, who is going to be the heir of his estate, and saying, I want you to take care of my children. I want you to take care of your half-sisters. And later the son, their brother, does not adhere to their father's dying wish. But what it just basically means is that in this scene, this is the moment when these girls' lives are going to change, right? After their father passes, they are sent to live in a cottage. They're no longer allowed to live in the estate. That passes to their brother, and their lives are forever changed, right? And it's transformation. And if you see the story, you know, the cottage that they move to becomes a real home to them. But again, at the time, you know, when they've lost their father and they're leaving their home, it feels like a lot of loss. But it's just that point in their life when their life is changing. It's metamorphosizing. So to clarify that, and again, it's moving forward. You got the 10 of candlesticks. You got the 8 of cups. And then you got the Ace of Cups. And again, guys, I just think that this battle, I'm definitely getting a feeling of like kind of David and Goliath, right? I'm getting the sense that you're feeling like, you know, everything was real stable in the past. You were not, something made you feel like you weren't really high up on the food chain, but where you were happy, right? And again, just like Emma is cared for by her father, you know, same scenario with the dashboard sisters. You know, if anything ever happened to her father, you know, her fortune would not be left to her. So she does stand to lose a lot, right? I hope this makes sense. I'm sorry, guys. But what I'm getting is that, yes, I do think that there's going to be someone who's kind of, there's going to be some kind of call out. There's going to be some kind of battle that really kind of calls you out. And it is going to threaten your security a little bit because, again, you're not really, I'm getting a sense like you don't really support yourself. But, you know, and this person, you know, saying stuff to you, or, and again, it can be in a job context too. It's like, okay, I don't make a whole lot of money, but I'm not going to let you talk to me like I'm, you know, like I'm nothing. So in the future, you do see a transformation of this. Whatever this situation is really going to transform you. And what I see is that with the 10 of Candlesticks, that's working really hard, right? That's taking on more than you need to. It's working and taking on duties or taking on responsibilities that you really shouldn't have to, and you're burning yourself out. Then after that, you see the the 8 of Teacups, which is it's walking away from something that you invested in, right? And then it's followed by the Ace of Cups, which is a really beautiful card. So again, you know, with like the death and the working too hard and let me just walk away from this. This could very well be like a new boss kind of situation. Maybe you were really happy in the past, and then all of a sudden a new boss comes in and really starts making you kind of miserable, and you start standing up to this person. Now, I do see that the future is going to be a little bit of, the future is really up to you. If you feel like you are doing more than your share, if you feel like you're, you know, because in the past and in the present, you're very happy in what you do, right? You just don't like being criticized, and you don't want anybody judging you unrighteously. So it's really up to you to decide whether or not you're going to stay in a situation that's working you too hard or making you. The other thing that I'm kind of getting is I'm getting the scapegoat, right? You know, maybe someone is trying to make you sound like you're the reason for some problem that's really not your fault. So, but in the future, if it is a situation that's making you unhappy or not treating you right, you are going to hold your dignity, right? You're not going to sit there and take any abuse. And you will walk away if you have to. But what it's telling me here, and especially with the transformation card, is it's saying that if it starts to get too much and you're really unhappy, you can walk away from this situation and you would have a brand new start somewhere else, right? It's not, you could find happiness in another situation. You are not, just because maybe your living situation or, you know, again, maybe your salary isn't the highest, just because you're not at the advantage, you know, you do have a moral high ground in what you do. And you're not going to take any abuse from anyone, right? The other thing about Sense and Sensibility is that the girls, you know, willingly moved to the cottage because they saw that their brother was not going to be fair about things. So they didn't bother trying to negotiate with him. They just said, okay, we're going to do what's right for us, right? And they didn't have a whole lot of money, but they were happy, you know, even though they didn't have, you know, a fortune to live off of. So that is also what I'm seeing here too, is that, you know, you're not going to stay in a situation to continue, you know, under somebody who's being dogmatic or a tyrant to you. You'll walk away from that, and if you do have to walk away, and it's not saying that you will, but you're going to stand by your principle and do your principles and do what's right for you. And when you do that, you will always, you know, should you have to change something, you will always have a place to go and a new start ahead of you, and you will be happy. You'll be okay. All right, guys. Well, I hope that makes sense, and I hope that, again, the How to Tarots run a little longer than normal, but I really enjoyed that. And again, the Seven of Wands, all of the wands are really powerful, you can tell. But I hope you enjoyed. I did have one brief announcement. This month I am going to discontinue doing the D&D readings. I just felt like, with all that's going on, I think that between the weekly card readings, the How to Tarots, and the special card pick-a-piles, I think we're going to be well full of content. I hope that's okay. If you do still want to see the D&D reading for April, please leave a comment and I'll consider, that being the last one. Otherwise, we're just gonna, stop them entirely, and, we might bring them back maybe once a year. But I hope I'll catch you in another video. The weekly energy card reading will be out on Saturday, and I hope to see you then. Bye.